The Eagle Bound by Blood, Part 1. The Shattered Kingdom. The sun rose over the jagged peaks of Arvender, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. Its first light revealed a land torn by war. Villages lay in smoldering ruins, the blackened skeletons of houses jutting into the morning sky like broken teeth. Smoke curled from scattered fires, and the distant wail of mourning filled the valleys. Arvender, once a proud kingdom of stone castles and fertile fields, had fallen. Its king was dead, its armies scattered, and its people left to fend for themselves in a world where shadows carried the weight of death. Kale, a young knight, rode alone through the remains of what had once been a bustling trade road. His black stallion, Rin, moved cautiously over the debris-strewn path, snorting at the scent of charred timber and blood. Kale's armor bore the marks of countless skirmishes, dents and scratches from sword strikes and arrowheads that had found their way through the heat of battle. His face, pale from weeks of hunger and sleepless nights, carried the weariness of a man who had seen too much death for his years. The memories of his family's massacre haunted him relentlessly. He had returned to their village only to find it reduced to ash. The bodies of his parents and siblings scattered among the ruins. The invaders' Malric's merciless forces had shown no mercy. Kale had barely survived, fleeing under the cover of night, vowing that one day he would bring justice to the land. That vow had become his purpose. As he approached a ruined bridge spanning a shallow river, Kale dismounted, allowing Rin to drink from the murky water. The river ran dark with ash and debris, a silent witness to the horrors of the past months. Kale's fingers traced the hilt of his sword, and he thought of the stories his mother once told him as a boy. Tales of eagles that soared above the clouds, seeing what others could not. The eagle sees truth, she had said. It is bound by blood, yet it flies free. Kale whispered the words under his breath, letting them steel his resolve. He had survived. That alone was enough to make him dangerous. Hours later, he entered a dense forest, the trees towering above like ancient sentinels. Their twisted branches formed a canopy that blocked out much of the rising sun, leaving the forest floor in shadow. Every sound seemed amplified, the snapping of twigs beneath Rin's hooves, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the distant call of a hawk circling overhead. Kale's senses were sharpened by necessity. He had learned to trust his instincts in the months since his escape. Suddenly, movement caught his eye between two oaks. A figure stepped lightly across the forest floor, cloaked in gray, hooded, and silent. Kale's hand went to his sword instinctively, though he did not raise it. "Identify yourself," he demanded, his voice low and cautious. The figure paused, then lowered her hands. "Peace," she said. Her voice was calm, yet firm. "I am Lyara, a scout for the Exiled Council. We've been expecting someone, though not you, not yet." Kale narrowed his eyes. "Expecting someone? What do you mean?" Lyara lifted her hood, revealing a face scarred by both fire and steel. Her eyes were sharp, a piercing gray that seemed to read him like an open book. "The council hoped for a leader," she explained. "Someone who carries the spirit of Arvender. They didn't know if such a person still lived. Perhaps they were mistaken, or perhaps you are the one." Kale's stomach twisted. Could it be possible? Could he, a simple knight, untrained in leadership, be the hope of a kingdom? He had no armies, no riches, no claim to any throne, and yet, something in Lyra's gaze stirred a spark he thought long extinguished. Follow me, she said, turning down a narrow forest path. We do not have much time. Malric's scouts roam these woods. They will smell a newcomer before long. The path led them deeper into the forest, where light barely reached the forest floor. Liara spoke as they walked, describing the council's hidden efforts to gather allies and mystical artifacts, remnants of old magics that might tip the scales against Malric's growing power. But the task is dangerous, she warned. Many have tried, and many have fallen. Malric commands powers older than the kingdom itself, and his reach extends into places we cannot see. Kale listened, absorbing every word. His grief for his lost family mingled with the growing determination. He would not be broken. He could not fail. He had survived when others had not, and that survival carried with it a responsibility that he could neither ignore nor refuse. By dusk, they arrived at a hidden glade. A small group waited, a battle-hardened archer named Soren, whose arrows never missed their mark. A stoic swordsman called Darian, who moved with the grace of a panther. A young mage, Ilara, still learning to harness her elemental powers. And an elderly scholar, Orlin, whose eyes missed nothing and whose wisdom had guided many in secret. Each regarded Kale with suspicion and curiosity. This is Kale, Liara announced. He survived Malric's wrath, and he carries the blood of Arender in his veins. Orlin's gaze settled on him. Blood alone does not make a leader, he said softly, but it can give courage where courage is most needed. Kale lowered his head. I do not claim to be a hero. I only wish to see Arender rise again, to honor those we have lost. If you will have me, I will stand with you not for glory, but for justice. A long silence fell. Then Liara placed her hand on his shoulder. Then we begin, she said. The first step is Vareth, the ruined city. There, we might uncover the key to Malric's power, and perhaps a way to end his reign. Kale's grip tightened on his sword. Then we ride, he said. For Arender and for the fallen. The forest path narrowed as the group mounted their horses, leaving the safety of the glade behind. Birds scattered in panic as they passed, and a distant wolf howled, a mournful echo of the kingdom's despair. Kale felt the weight of his oath, heavy as the armor he wore. Night fell. The group took refuge in the remains of an abandoned watchtower, its walls scarred by arrows and fire. Around a small fire, Liara laid out maps and described the city's current state: ruined gates, occupied districts, hidden cellars, and secret passages. Malric's forces are spread thin, she explained, but they are cunning. Every street is patrolled, every building watched. We must be smarter than they are, faster than they are, and braver than we think possible. Soren sharpened his arrows in silence, the scraping sound echoing off the stone. Darian cleaned his sword, the metallic ring punctuating the tense quiet. Ilara studied her staff, murmuring incantations under her breath, calling forth faint flickers of elemental light. Orlin, the scholar, traced invisible patterns in the dirt, thinking in calculations that spanned magic, history, and strategy. Kale felt the eyes of the group on him. He could sense their doubts, their unspoken questions. Can this young knight lead us? Can he survive what we must do? He met each gaze with unwavering determination. I may not be your hero yet, he said softly, but I will earn your trust. I will not fail. The night passed slowly. Kale's mind wandered to memories of his family, to the eagle his mother had described, soaring above the land, seeing all with clarity and purpose. He imagined himself as that eagle, bound by blood yet unbroken, rising above the ruins to reclaim what was lost. By the first light of dawn, the group set out. The path to Vareth was treacherous. Fallen trees, collapsed bridges, and hidden pits awaited them. Every shadow seemed alive, every whisper of wind a warning. Malric's scouts were near, and Kale felt their eyes on the group. Unseen but present, tracking, waiting, as the city came into view. A jagged line of ruined towers and burnt homes against the horizon. Kale's heart pounded. Smoke rose from the city like the breath of some sleeping beast. He tightened his grip on his sword. This was no longer a path of survival. This was a battlefield, a test of courage, strategy, and the strength of a kingdom's spirit. Lyara leaned close. We strike at dawn, she whispered. We reclaim what we can, and we uncover Malric's secrets. Be ready for anything. The city will not yield easily. Kale nodded. His horse shifted beneath him, sensing the tension. The first step into Vareth would be the first step toward destiny or death. And yet, as the sun climbed, illuminating the shattered city before them, Kale felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. A fragile, burning hope, but hope nonetheless. The eagle, bound by blood, had begun its flight. The Eagle Bound by Blood Part 2. Shadows over Vareth *, the ruins of Vareth stretched before them, a jagged scar across the horizon. Once a thriving center of trade and culture, now it lay in smoldering ruin, its streets littered with broken carts, toppled statues, and the remnants of homes scorched by fire. Smoke rose intermittently, carried by the morning wind, and the faint scent of charred wood and death lingered like a shadow over the city. Kale rode at the forefront. The black stallion Rin's hooves, careful on the uneven cobblestones. Beside him, Liara moved silently, scanning the streets for patrols and ambushes. Behind them, Sorin, Darian, Ilara, and Orlin followed, each alert, each ready to act at a moment's notice. The group had spent the night, hidden in a forest grove just outside the city, planning their entry carefully. Dawn had barely broken when they began their descent into the heart of the ruined metropolis. Keep your eyes sharp, Liara whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind. Malric's scouts are likely watching, and the city itself hides more than just ruins. Kale nodded, gripping the hilt of his sword. His stomach churned with anticipation and unease. Vareth held secrets ancient and dangerous that could turn the tide of their mission, or doom them all. The city's magic was rumored to linger in hidden chambers and crumbling cathedrals, remnants of a time before Malric's conquest. And somewhere within those ruins, the key to defeating him awaited. The group moved cautiously through the main street, careful to avoid open areas where they might be spotted. Shadows clung to the walls, and the wind whispered across broken rooftops like ghostly voices. Cale felt a chill run down his spine. Every alley, every doorway could conceal an enemy or a trap. Every sound could herald danger. Suddenly, a sharp whistle cut through the air. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Scouts," she said, patrolling ahead. Cale dismounted quickly, signaling the others to do the same. They crouched behind the remains of a collapsed wall, peering round the jagged stones. 3 figures moved along the street, clad in dark leathers, carrying short swords and shields. Their eyes scanned the ruins carefully, alert for any sign of intruders. Darian muttered under his breath. "We can't let them report back to Malric." Soren knocked an arrow silently, drawing the string taut. "1 shot each. Quick and clean," he whispered. "Take them down before they reach the square." Cale's heart raced. This was their first real test in one wrong move, and the mission could collapse before it even began. He nodded, taking a deep breath to steady himself. At his signal, the group moved like shadows, slipping from cover to cover, closing the distance to the unsuspecting scouts. In a flurry of motion. Soren released his arrow, striking the first scout in the shoulder. The man cried out, dropping to the ground with a grunt. Darian leaped forward, his sword slicing through the second scout's defenses, while Cale struck the third with a precise, calculated blow that left him unconscious but alive. The operation was swift, silent, and efficient. Breathing heavily, Cale wiped his blade on his cloak and looked at his companions. "Well done," he whispered. "We need to move before more arrive." The group pressed on, navigating the labyrinthine streets, each step measured and careful. The ruins were deceptive. Streets twisted back on themselves, buildings leaned precariously, and hidden courtyards created blind spots. Magic lingered in the city like a silent predator, and Cale could feel it prickling against the edge of his consciousness. Hours passed as they explored, uncovering signs of Malric's occupation. Abandoned banners, burned homes, and symbols etched in dark ink told of the warlord's presence. They found a collapsed tower where scribes had hidden documents, some of which still contained maps and notes. Orlan carefully examined them, muttering to himself as he traced the ancient writing. These documents, he said finally, eyes widening. Malric has been seeking an artifact, something powerful. It is said to be hidden beneath the central cathedral, locked by wards and old enchantments. If he succeeds in finding it, none of our efforts will matter. Cale's jaw tightened. The central cathedral. That was where they had to go. But reaching it would not be simple. The streets grew narrower, the ruins denser, and shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally, as if the city itself resisted their intrusion. As dusk fell. The group took shelter in a half-collapsed house, hidden from view. Around the fire, They discussed strategy. Alara's hands glowed faintly as she practiced controlling her magic, weaving light through the air to illuminate the maps without giving away their position. Liara spoke softly, outlining the approach to the cathedral. We cannot storm it head. Malric's wards are strong, and his soldiers are vigilant. We must find a hidden entrance, a way to bypass the outer defenses and confront whatever lies beneath. Kale listened intently, weighing each option. What about traps? He asked. If it's protected by wards, there could be more than just soldiers waiting for us. Yes, Liara admitted. The wards are old, and their magic is unpredictable. One false step could alert every patrol, or worse, trigger the enchantments. The night passed slowly. Kale found little sleep, his mind racing with plans and contingencies. He thought of his family, of the people who had perished under Malric's conquest, and of the city itself, once proud and vibrant. The burden of responsibility pressed down on him, heavy as any armor. By dawn, the group set out toward the cathedral. The streets were eerily quiet, the silence broken only by distant crows and the occasional scurrying of rats. Every shadow seemed alive, every corner potentially lethal. Kale led the way, alert to every sound, every movement. As they approached the cathedral, the scale of its ruin became apparent. The once grand doors were splintered, the stained glass windows shattered, and the roof sagged under the weight of time and fire. Yet, amidst the decay, an aura of power lingered. Magic hummed faintly in the air, subtle but unmistakable, like a heartbeat beneath the stones. Liara signaled for the group to halt. She knelt and examined the ground near the entrance. These markings, she murmured, they are wards, but weakened. We can bypass them if we move carefully, but it will not be easy. Kale studied the doors, feeling a mixture of anticipation and dread. The cathedral was the first true obstacle in their quest. The first place where Malric's shadow could confront them directly. His hand rested on his sword, knuckles white. With deliberate steps. They entered the cathedral through a side passage, avoiding the main doors. The air inside was cool and heavy with dust, and the faint smell of incense from long ago lingered like a memory. Pillars rose like silent guards, their surfaces etched with faded carvings depicting eagles and warriors, symbols of a time when the kingdom had known peace. As they moved deeper, a faint glow appeared beneath the altar. Kale felt a pull in his chest, a resonance with something ancient and powerful. He approached cautiously, signaling the others to stay alert. Suddenly, a shadow moved. A figure stepped from behind a collapsed pillar, draped in dark robes, a hood concealing its face. Malric's lieutenant, a sorcerer of considerable power, had been waiting. So, the fledgling eagle comes to challenge me, the figure hissed, voice echoing through the cavernous space. You are too late. Kale drew his sword, stepping forward. We are never too late to reclaim what is ours, he said, voice steady despite the tension. Around him, his companions readied themselves, bows drawn, staffs glowing, and steel gleaming in the pale light. The battle was about to begin. The Eagle Bound by Blood Part 3. the heart of darkness, the cathedral lay in near total silence, broken only by the faint echoes of dripping water from the cracked ceilings and the soft shuffle of Cale's companions' boots over broken stone. The faint glow beneath the altar had grown, casting long shadows across the warped pillars and shattered pews. Cale's eyes scanned the chamber, his grip tight on his sword, every muscle in his body coiled like a spring. He had faced death before, but nothing like the oppressive power that emanated from this place. Lyara whispered beside him. This is where Malric's lieutenant conducts the rituals. The wards here are alive and hungry. Cale nodded, his jaw tight. Then we move carefully. No mistakes. Alara's staff glowed faintly, illuminating the carvings of eagles and warriors that lined the cathedral walls. The magic here was old, tangled, and dark. She muttered under her breath, tracing runes in the air, trying to disrupt the lingering enchantments. A faint hum vibrated through the floor beneath their feet, as if the cathedral itself were aware of their intrusion. Ahead. A figure stepped from behind a pile of rubble. The hooded sorcerer's presence was suffocating, their aura radiating a cold, twisting power. So, the fledgling eagle comes to confront me, the figure hissed. You will not leave this place alive. Cale stepped forward, planting his feet firmly. We are not here for glory. We are here to end your master's tyranny. The sorcerer laughed, a hollow, echoing sound that bounced off the stone walls. Shadows twisted and stretched around them, coiling like living serpents. With a flick of a wrist, the sorcerer sent a wave of dark energy racing toward the group. Cale rolled forward, narrowly avoiding the strike, and called, positions. Soren, cover the flanks. Alara, shield us with your wards. The battle erupted. Soren's arrows flew with deadly precision, each one finding a gap in the shadows. Cutting down the twisted manifestations the sorcerer conjured. Darian moved like a shadow himself, blade flashing, parrying the strikes of summoned guardians that sprang from the darkness. Cale lunged forward, his sword meeting the sorcerer's enchanted staff in sparks of light and energy. Despite their combined efforts, the cathedral seemed to fight back. Pillars trembled, the floor cracked, and faint whispers filled the air, feeding fear into their hearts. Cale realized that Malric's lieutenant was not merely a man, but a conduit for the dark energy of the city itself. Every strike, every movement, seemed amplified by the lingering magic of centuries past. Lyara darted between pillars, striking at summoned shadows and pulling the group to safety whenever the environment itself tried to crush them. Ilara's magic shimmered, forming a protective dome that deflected minor attacks. But she struggled to maintain focus as the dark energy pulsed and writhed. Cale gritted his teeth, realizing brute force alone would not suffice. He remembered his mother's words about the eagle, to see truth where others could not, to strike decisively when the moment came. Scanning the cathedral quickly, he spotted faint, glowing lines on the floorboards, connecting the altar to the surrounding ruins. He understood immediately. Destroy these lines, and the sorcerer's control would weaken. Darian, Orlin, cover me. Cale shouted. He sprinted toward the altar, dodging shadows that lashed out like snakes. The ground beneath him thrummed with dark energy, but he pressed on, slashing at the glowing wards with his sword. Sparks erupted as steel met magic, the cathedral quaking in protest. Asterisk, the sorcerer screamed, a sound of rage and pain. Shadows recoiled, twisting violently before collapsing into the ground. The group seized the moment, pressing their attack. Soren's arrows found new targets. Ilara's wards flared brighter, and Lyara struck with deadly precision. The air was thick with tension and energy. The cathedral alive with the clash of light and darkness. Asterisk, finally, with a decisive strike, Kale severed the final ward. A surge of energy pulsed through the room, knocking everyone to the ground. The sorcerer's staff cracked and splintered, and for the first time, the figure seemed human, vulnerable, and terrified. Asterisk, Kale raised his sword. "It's over," he said, though he knew the real war had only begun. The lieutenant collapsed, unconscious but alive, the power that had flowed through them now gone. Asterisk, breathing heavily. The group gathered around the glowing fragment of the altar. Orlin examined it, eyes wide with realization. This is part of the artifact Malrin seeks, he said. It's a key, a fragment of unimaginable power. If he collects them all, none of our efforts will matter. But now, we have a chance. Asterisk, Kale nodded, exhaustion weighing on him. Then we take it and leave. Vareth has much more to hide, but this is the first victory. Asterisk, the group moved cautiously back through the shattered cathedral, wary of patrols or lingering traps. Outside, the city of Vareth stretched into the twilight, dark and foreboding. The streets were silent, but Kale knew better. The shadows watched, waiting, and Malric's reach was far longer than the eye could see. Asterisk, that night, they camped in the ruins of an old merchant hall. Around the fire, fatigue and relief battled for dominance. Kale's mind was restless, thinking of the challenges ahead. Malric would not remain idle. He would know of their intrusion soon enough, and the hunt would begin. Asterisk, Liara spoke quietly. You did well today. The council will be impressed. But remember, this is only the beginning. The deeper we go, the more dangerous it becomes. Asterisk, Kale stared into the fire, thinking of the eagle soaring high above the land. He felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever, the blood of his family fueling determination. We'll need more than courage to win, he said. We'll need allies, knowledge, and precision. Malric's darkness cannot be confronted blindly. Asterisk, Alara, still glowing faintly from exertion, nodded. And magic? The city itself holds secrets we've yet to uncover. I can feel it, calling to us. Asterisk, Orlin frowned, tracing lines in the dirt with a stick. Magic can aid us, yes, but it can also deceive. We must be cautious. Every step deeper into Vareth may bring answers. Or doom. Asterisk, Kale clenched his fists. Then we take it one step at a time. We learn, we fight, and we survive. For Erender, Asterisk, the first stars appeared in the sky, twinkling faintly over the ruined city. Kale looked at them, feeling a fragile thread of hope. The path was dark, fraught with danger, but the journey had begun. The eagle bound by blood had made its first strike, and its wings were spreading. Asterisk, but in the distance, hidden among the ruins, eyes glimmered with malice. Melric's forces were aware, and the Dark Warlord himself stirred. The artifact had been disturbed, and his fury would know no bounds. The shadows of Vareth were alive, and soon, Kale and his companions would face challenges far greater than mere soldiers or traps. Asterisk, they were only beginning to glimpse the heart of darkness. The Eagle Bound by Blood Part 4. The Labyrinth of Shadows. The air in Vareth grew heavier, the deeper Kale and his companions ventured. Ruined streets gave way to collapsed tunnels and hidden courtyards. The city's innermost heart now a twisted labyrinth of stone and shadow. Each step carried a faint echo, the sound bouncing off walls scarred with the remnants of war and dark enchantments. Here, the magic was thick, suffocating, and alive, whispering promises of power and threats of death. Asterisk, Kale led the way. Rin's hooves, cautious on the uneven rubble-strewn ground. His companions followed closely Liara, scanning the darkness for movement. Soren keeping his bow at the ready, Darian's sword glinting faintly under the dim light, Alara's staff illuminating wards that flickered like dying stars, and Orlin mapping their path as they moved. They were silent, each lost in thought, aware that one mistake could be their last. Asterisk, this part of the city, Liara whispered, her eyes narrowing. It's the labyrinth of shadows. Few know how to navigate it. Malric's scouts rarely enter here. Not because it is impassable, but because it can drive men mad. Asterisk, Kale's jaw tightened. Then we keep our focus. No distractions, no fear, one step at a time. Asterisk, the labyrinth was unlike anything they had seen. Streets twisted impossibly, alleys doubled back on themselves, and staircases led nowhere. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, some etched in stone, others appearing in air like spectral ink. Ilara paused frequently, whispering spells to disrupt the lingering magic. But the enchantments seemed older and more cunning than anything she had encountered. Asterisk. Hours passed as they navigated the twisting passages. Kale felt a gnawing unease. The city itself seemed aware of them, guiding their path while concealing dangers. Shadows stretched and shifted, forming vague shapes that sometimes resembled figures, sometimes twisted beasts. Every time Kale thought he had identified the correct route, the labyrinth shifted subtly, forcing them to retrace their steps or confront unseen threats. Asterisk, suddenly, a low, guttural growl echoed from a side passage. Liara signaled for silence. The group froze, ears straining. The sound came again, closer this time, and then a pair of glowing eyes appeared in the darkness. A creature unlike any Kale had seen, a blend of shadow and flesh. Sinew coiled with unnatural power lunged from the gloom. Asterisk, Kale reacted instantly. Form a circle, he shouted. Soren loosed arrows with deadly precision, each striking the creature's twisted body. Darian met its strike head-on, sword clashing against clawed limbs, sparks flying. Ilara's magic flared, a shield of bright light that held the creature at bay, though it shrieked, a sound that seemed to pierce their very bones. Asterisk, Kale slashed with calculated precision, driving the beast back into the shadows. It recoiled, vanishing as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving the group shaken but alive. The encounter reminded them that Vareth's darkness was not merely metaphorical, it was alive, aggressive, and dangerous. Asterisk breathing heavily, Kale looked at his companions. "We press on," he said. "We can't let fear slow us." Asterisk Liara led them deeper into the labyrinth, finally reaching a chamber that had once been a central square. The remnants of statues and fountains were scattered, the ground cracked with age and magic. Here Orlan's voice drew their attention. "These markings, they're directional, guiding us to a focal point. Something powerful lies ahead." Asterisk Kale stepped forward, eyes scanning the chamber. In the center, partially buried under debris, was a glowing stone pedestal. Its light pulsed like a heartbeat, faint but steady. Kale felt a strange resonance in his chest, a connection that went beyond logic. The artifact fragment they had retrieved from the cathedral earlier seemed to hum in response. Asterisk Ilara approached cautiously. "The wards here. They're intricate. One misstep, and we could trigger a trap or worse. Alert Malric himself." Asterisk Kale studied the pedestal. "Then we proceed carefully, together." Asterisk as they cleared the debris, the air thickened. Shadows gathered along the walls, forming tendrils that reached toward the group, probing, testing. Kale raised his sword, the steel reflecting the artifact's light. "Hold steady. Do not let them touch us." Asterisk the battle that followed was relentless. Shadows lashed, attempting to consume them, while the labyrinth shifted subtly, forcing Kale and his companions to adapt in real time. Soren's arrows and Darian's swordsmanship kept the immediate threats at bay, while Alara's magic disrupted the wards and weakened the shadows. Orlan muttered incantations, deciphering ancient runes to prevent the labyrinth from closing in on them. Asterisk hours felt like minutes as they fought and maneuvered, until finally, they reached the pedestal. Liara carefully lifted the artifact fragment, examining it. Its glow intensified as Kale stepped closer, and he realized that the stone's resonance was not merely magical, it responded to blood, lineage, and intention. Kale's connection to Arender, his oath, and his determination made the artifact pulse with life. Asterisk suddenly, a distant rumble echoed through the labyrinth. The walls trembled, and debris began to fall. Malric's presence was near. He had sensed the disturbance and was moving to reclaim what was theirs. Kale's mind raced. They had the fragment, but the labyrinth was unstable, and retreat would be as dangerous as advancing. Asterisk, "We move now," Kale said firmly. "Take the artifact and follow my lead. No hesitation." Asterisk, the group navigated the labyrinth with renewed urgency, shadows clawing at them from every corner. Magic twisted reality, altering distances and creating phantom walls. Alara's glowing staff illuminated the path, and Kale's instincts guided them through the impossible maze. Every turn was a gamble, every step a potential trap. Asterisk, at last. They emerged into a partially intact district, the first rays of sunlight piercing through collapsed rooftops. Exhausted but alive, they paused to catch their breath. The artifact fragment was secure, and for the first time since entering Virath, Kale allowed himself a moment of relief. Asterisk Liara placed a hand on his shoulder. "We've done well," she said, her eyes scanning the ruins. "But Malric will not let this go unanswered." He knows we've taken something valuable. Our next move must be careful, calculated. The deeper we go, the more dangerous it becomes. Asterisk Kale nodded. His muscles ached. His body screamed for rest, but he felt the fire of purpose burning brighter than exhaustion. Vareth was only the beginning, and the labyrinth had proven that Malric's reach extended far beyond mere soldiers. Darkness could take many forms, shadow, fear, and magic, but so could courage, determination, and unity. Asterisk, as night fell over the ruined city, Kale and his companions set up a small camp amidst the rubble. The first stars appeared in the sky, faint but steadfast. The eagle bound by blood had survived another trial. But the journey ahead promised greater challenges, darker magic, and a confrontation that would test every ounce of strength and resolve they possessed. Asterisk, and somewhere in the shadows Vareth eyes watched, calculating, waiting. Malric's forces were aware, and the warlord's wrath would soon descend upon them. Asterisk Kale looked at his companions, seeing determination, fear, hope, and resolve mirrored in each face. They were battered, weary, but not broken. Together, they would face the darkness. The labyrinth had been conquered, but the heart of darkness still lay ahead. The Eagle Bound by Blood, Part 5, The Siege of Shadows. The city of Vareth lay beneath a sky streaked with the fires of distant watchtowers. Malric's forces were aware of Kale's intrusion, and their presence was no longer hidden. From the ruined walls, banners blackened with his insignia fluttered ominously, and the faint, haunting sounds of war drums echoed through the labyrinthine streets. The first wave of retaliation was imminent. Asterisk Kale and his companions stood atop a collapsed archway, overlooking the district they had just traversed. Exhausted but alert, they assessed their position. The artifact fragment glowed faintly, its resonance pulsing in Kale's chest as though warning him of the coming danger. Asterisk, we've been detected, Lyara whispered, her hand resting on the hilt of her blade. Malric knows we have something valuable. The patrols will come in force, and they won't hold back. Asterisk Kale nodded. Then we make our stand here. We hold them off long enough to secure the fragment and plan our next move. Asterisk Darian adjusted his grip on his sword. I hope you've got more than hope, knight. They'll come at us in numbers. Asterisk Soren's arrows were already knocked, eyes scanning for movement. Alara muttered incantations, her staff glowing brighter with each spell woven into protective wards. Orlin, the scholar, traced sigils in the dust at their feet, reinforcing the magical defenses around them. Asterisk, the first wave arrived with the scream of steel against stone. Shadowed figures poured from alleyways, moving in disciplined formation. Malric's soldiers were more than human, they were twisted by dark magic. Their eyes glowing with unnatural light, their movements precise and relentless. Asterisk Kale led the charge, sword flashing. Every swing was deliberate, every step calculated. Darian fought at his side, Soren's arrows finding their marks with deadly accuracy. Ilara's wards deflected magical attacks, while Lyara darted through the fray, striking swiftly and retreating before the enemy could respond. Asterisk, the battle raged for hours. Shadows clung to the edges of the district, seeking to overwhelm them, but the group held their ground. Kale's leadership became a beacon. Strategic orders, quick thinking, and unwavering courage kept the companions coordinated amidst chaos. The city itself seemed to react to their determination. Wards stabilizing, corridors shifting to their advantage. The labyrinth responding to the intent of the courageous. During a brief lull, Kale surveyed the battlefield. More of Malric's lieutenants were approaching, dark sorcerers who wielded the city's lingering magic. "We cannot hold them all," he said. "We need a plan to strike directly at the heart of their command. The artifact can guide us, but we must be fast." Orlan stepped forward. "There's a hidden passage beneath the old council hall. It leads directly toward the central plaza, the likely location of Malric's command post. If we can reach it, we might turn the tide before reinforcements arrive." Kale nodded. "Then we move carefully, swiftly, together." The group navigated the ruins, avoiding open streets and patrolling shadows. Every step was tense. The city's magic shifted unpredictably, creating phantom walls and false corridors. Ilara's wards shimmered, casting protective barriers and illuminating the safest paths. Soren covered their flanks, and Darien cleared obstacles with precision. At last, they reached the entrance to the hidden passage. It was narrow and dark, the stone cold beneath their hands. Kale signaled for silence, and one by one, they descended, the passage winding deeper into the city's underbelly. As they emerged beneath the central plaza, the scale of Malric's presence became clear. Soldiers patrolled in tight formations, and towering constructs of dark magic stood at the plaza's center, animated by the warlord's power. The artifact fragment pulsed, resonating with a faint hum that seemed to guide them toward the plaza's core. Kale's mind raced. The battle above would draw attention, but the warlord's lieutenants were formidable. A frontal attack would be suicide. "We split," he whispered to his companions. "Soren and Ilara take the eastern flank and disrupt the magic constructs. Darien, Liara and I move toward the artifact's resonance. Orlan, stay with Uswal. Be crucial in deciphering the wards and traps." The assault began with precision. Soren's arrows tore through the constructs, while Elara's magic created barriers that shielded their advance. Shadows twisted violently, attempting to block Kale's path. But his companions fought with determination and unity. As they reached the central pedestal, a figure emerged, the lieutenant from the cathedral, now fully restored by dark magic, accompanied by reinforcements. "So, you've come again," the sorcerer hissed, eyes glowing with malice. "This time, you will not leave alive." Kale tightened his grip on his sword. "We fight for Eret. We will not fail." The clash was violent. Steel met magic, shadows clashed with wards, and the air burned with the heat of conflict. Kale moved with clarity, directing his companions, striking decisively, and anticipating the enemy's moves. Each member played their part with precision. The bonds of trust forged through countless trials now proving essential. Ilara chanted incantations, disrupting the lieutenant's magic, while Soren's arrows struck critical targets. Darien met the lieutenant head-on, parrying blasts of dark energy and retaliating with precise strikes. Liara moved with lethal grace, cutting down reinforcements before they could engage the others. Kale's moment came when the lieutenant overextended, attempting to destroy the artifact. With a decisive strike, Kale severed the sorcerer's connection to the dark energy animating the constructs. A shockwave pulsed through the plaza, knocking enemies off balance and dispersing shadows. Orlin stepped forward, quickly neutralizing lingering wards and stabilizing the artifact. Its glow intensified, casting a warm, reassuring light that pushed back the darkness. Kale exhaled, realizing that they had survived, that they had struck a blow against Malric's power. But the battle was far from over. Malric himself would soon arrive. The warlord's rage, amplified by the theft of the artifact fragment, would descend upon them with a force unlike any they had yet faced. Kale knew that Part 6, the final confrontation, would test every skill, every ounce of courage, and every bond forged among them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire, Kale surveyed the plaza. "We've won this round," he said quietly. "But the war is not over. Malric will come, and we must be ready." The artifact pulsed, resonating with Kale's determination, as if acknowledging his vow. The eagle bound by blood had struck, but the storm was far from finished. The Eagle Bound by Blood, Part 6. The final confrontation. The night air over Vareth was thick with tension, and the acrid scent of smoke. Fires still burned in scattered districts, casting flickering shadows that danced along ruined walls and toppled statues. Kale stood atop the central plaza, the artifact fragment glowing faintly in his hands, its warmth a stark contrast to the chill of approaching danger. Around him, his companions prepared themselves. Lyra's eyes gleamed with steel resolve. Soren checked his arrows with practiced precision. Darian's grip on his sword was unwavering. Alara's staff radiated a faint, protective light, and Orlin traced ancient sigils in the dust, stabilizing wards to shield them from Malric's inevitable wrath. The silence was broken by a tremor, the ground beneath their feet shaking violently. A deep, resonant voice echoed through the ruins, carrying with it the power of one who commanded both fear and death. You dare challenge me? Malric's voice boomed, resonating as if it came from the very stones themselves. The artifact belongs to me, and so does this city. None shall stop me. Kale felt the artifact pulse in response, as if sensing the presence of the warlord himself. A mixture of dread and determination surged through him. This was the moment they had trained, bled, and sacrificed for. The fate of Arender, the memory of his family, and the courage of his companions converged into a single, undeniable purpose. Everyone, stay focused, Kale commanded. This is the final battle. No hesitation. From the shadows, Malric emerged a towering figure draped in robes darker than the night, eyes glowing with a malevolent light that seemed to pierce the soul. Dark energy radiated from him in waves, twisting the air and bending the remnants of the city to his will. Around him, constructs of black stone stirred, animated by dark magic, while shadowy figures surged from alleys, forming an army of relentless, supernatural warriors. Kale's companions formed a protective formation around him, Soren's arrows flew true, striking the constructs with precision. Darien clashed with shadow warriors, steel ringing against enchanted armor. Liara moved fluidly, cutting down threats and guiding the group through the chaos. Ilara's magic flared brightly, protective wards deflecting Malric's spells and shielding their advance. Orlin muttered incantations, unraveling enchantments and creating safe paths amid the destruction. Kale advanced toward Malric, the artifact fragment in his hands resonating with every heartbeat. He could feel the warlord's power pressing against him, an invisible weight that sought to crush both body and spirit. But Kale's resolve was unwavering. You have the fragment, Malric hissed, his voice like rolling thunder. But it is nothing without the rest. Your defiance will cost you everything. Kale held the fragment high. We fight for Arendar, for those you've destroyed, for those who cannot fight. Your reign ends tonight. With a roar, Malric unleashed a torrent of dark energy, waves of magic and shadow rippling outward, shattering stone and tossing debris through the plaza. Kale dodged, narrowly avoiding a strike that could have shattered bone. The battle escalated into chaos, the clash of magic, steel, and shadow lighting the ruins like a storm of fire and lightning. Soren and Ilara focused on disrupting Malric's magical constructs, each arrow and spell striking with purpose. Darien and Liara engaged the Shadow Warriors, their movements a deadly dance of precision and skill. Kale faced Malric directly, parrying blasts of dark energy and striking whenever he saw an opening. Every swing of his sword, every movement, was guided by instinct, training, and the deep resonance of the artifact fragment. Malric snarled, unleashing a surge of raw power that knocked Kale and his companions off their feet. The plaza trembled, dust and debris raining down around them. Kale struggled to rise, feeling the oppressive weight of the warlord's magic pressing against his very soul. But the artifact pulsed, a steady heartbeat of hope and determination. It reminded him of his purpose. Survival was not enough. Victory was the only option. Ilaris wards flared, pushing back the surge of energy, while Liara and Darien struck at the constructs, weakening their forms. Soren's arrows found the gaps in Malric's defenses, disrupting the rhythm of his attacks. Orlon muttered incantations, unraveling the warlord's wards and creating openings for Kale to exploit. Kale realized that brute force alone would not defeat Malric. He needed strategy, timing, and unity. Observing the warlord's movements, he noticed a pattern, a momentary pause after each surge of power. That was his opening. With a determined yell, Kale charged, artifact fragment in hand, parrying a final wave of shadow and closing the distance. Malric swung a staff of dark energy, striking with devastating force, but Kale twisted, using the momentum to redirect the strike against one of the constructs. It shattered, sending shards of black stone flying across the plaza. Kale pressed the attack, striking at the heart of Malric's energy. The artifact glowed intensely, feeding on Kale's resolve, amplifying his strikes. Malric's expression twisted in shock and fury. He had underestimated the connection between the knight and the artifact. You cannot, Malric began. But Kale struck again, severing the flow of dark energy that powered the constructs and weakening the warlord's magical defenses. The shadows around Malric writhed violently, struggling against the light of the artifact. Kale's companions pressed their advantage. Ilara unleashed a torrent of elemental energy, destabilizing Malric's remaining constructs. Soren's arrows struck with deadly precision, hitting weak points in the warlord's defenses. Darien and Lyara engaged shadow warriors, clearing the path for Kale's final strike. Orlin muttered a final incantation, unraveling the last wards protecting Malric. Kale raised the artifact high, channeling his strength, purpose, and the memory of every lost soul into a single, decisive blow. The fragment blazed with light, striking Malric directly. The warlord screamed, a sound that shook the ruins, as the dark energy around him shattered into shards of black smoke. The constructs collapsed, and the shadow warriors dissipated into nothingness. For a moment, silence fell. The fires of Vareth flickered, the wind carried away the echoes of battle, and the ruins seemed to breathe, releasing centuries of darkness. Malric lay defeated, his power broken. The warlord finally brought low. Kale dropped to his knees, exhausted, the artifact fragment still glowing faintly in his hands. Around him, his companions caught their breath, the relief and exhilaration palpable. They had survived, they had fought, and they had struck a decisive blow against the darkness that had consumed Arendar. Orlin approached, placing a hand on Kale's shoulder. "The warlord's reign is over," he said quietly, "but the kingdom will need rebuilding. There is still much work to do." Liara nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Arendar will rise again, thanks to you, Kale. You have proven yourself not just a survivor, but a leader." Kale stood slowly, the weight of exhaustion pressing down, but tempered by the fire of purpose. He looked at his companions, Liara, Soren, Darien, Elada, and Orland, and felt a bond stronger than any magic, stronger than fear. Together, they had faced impossible odds and prevailed. The first light of dawn broke over the horizon, bathing Vareth in golden light. The ruins, though scarred, seemed less foreboding, as if the city itself recognized the turning of a new era. Kale raised the artifact, feeling its warmth and power resonate with hope and renewal. The eagle, bound by blood, had completed its flight, rising above the darkness, carrying the promise of a kingdom restored. Kale spoke quietly, to no one in particular. Yet to all who had suffered and all who would rebuild, Arendar will live. We will rebuild. And we will never forget those who gave their lives to see this day. The companions stood together, the artifact safe, the warlord defeated, and a new dawn breaking over the shattered kingdom. The battle was won, but the legacy of courage, sacrifice, and unity would endure far beyond this day. And so, the saga of the eagle bound by blood came to a victorious close. The darkness dispelled, and a kingdom given the chance to rise anew.